On the road here. This is March 28th, 2024, Wyandotte Creek Groundwater Sustainability Agency meeting. And first up, Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. All right. And please call the roll.
Bill Connolly,
I'm here.
Jana Goodson,
Yes.
William Bynum,
Here.
Kyle Daly,
Here.
Bruce Riston. Thank you.
And first up, Cammie would like to introduce some new people to our organization.
Great. Thank you, Chair Connolly. So I just wanted to take an opportunity. We've adding staff and having new advisory committee members. So first, just because a few of them are here, I wanted to introduce, we have two of new Wyandotte Creek Advisory Committee members, WAC members here that have been recently appointed, and one is Joe Gleason. I think you appointed him at your last meeting. And then we also have Colleen Duncan, and she was appointed in the fall, I think. Does that sound right? Just after the fee study. So she was involved in participating during the fee study. So we have been able to add members to our advisory committee meeting membership because we've had vacancies most of the time. So it's really great that we have these landowners and business people participating in the advisory committee. So hopefully we'll give them fun things to do this year. And then also I wanted to take the opportunity, we have our new GSA program manager, Dylan Rainey. So she has been on board now for about 6 weeks, I think. Yes, so we're excited to have her. We went through the recruitment process. We interviewed a number of people, and she was our top choice. And luckily for us, she accepted the position. So she is getting things back on track, and hopefully things will run a little more smoothly and with her on board. And then also we have a new project coordinator, and Becky Fairbanks is here, and she will be assisting Christina with management of all of these projects that we have, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant Program projects, that you will be looking at some of those agreements today and signing, and then Becky will be helping to just coordinate the consultants and the grant administration component of those projects. So we're happy to have her on board. And then we do have one more person starting next week on Tuesday, who will also be helping with grant administration. And those two positions are term sunset positions. They are funded by the grants by both Wyandotte Creek and the Vina GSA, the grant programs. And then also, as you know, Dylan's position is a permanent position that's funded by both GSAs. So I just wanted to take the opportunity. There's lots of new faces. And then we also have one of our consultants here that's working on the grants. So just know that some of these people are involved in all the things that we're working on. So.
Well, thank you for volunteering. Really appreciate it. I hope you find it interesting.
Welcome.
It can be. And when we talk about money, it gets controversial, but thank God we're not talking about that today. Yeah, not like we're going to tax you. Oh, I didn't say the fee you, whatever it is. Okay, first up is approval of our minutes from the last regular meeting. Any errors or changes?
I didn't see any. I move that we approve the last meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Actually, there's a couple dates there. We got both dates are included, right? Yeah.
October 26th and January 25th.
Okay, there we go. Very good. Nice catch. Number 4, consideration of contract with Larry Walker, Associate. Who's going to handle that? Christina?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We're going to get a presentation, just a couple slides. Good afternoon, Christina Buck with the department. And we have a couple contracts for your consideration today. I'll give you a little bit of background. Let me on these and kind of where we've come from, just a reminder of where we've come from. So as you know, we applied for this grant funding almost a year and a half ago. It was awarded in October with a notification letter, and the grant agreement has been finalized. We are waiting for kind of final execution with an assigned grant number and signatures. The latest update, which I got this morning from our grant manager, is that it should be out for signature in the next week, and it has gotten the green light. So we're feeling confident that that just really needs the stamp, but is moving forward as with the scope of work and the budget and schedule that we've worked out with them, consistent with what we've talked about here in the past in the grant application. So that's the status of the grant agreement. Butte County, our department will be providing grant administrative services to the GSA, and so that's what the subrecipient agreement is about. It really outlines the roles and responsibilities that our department will play on behalf of the GSA to have these projects completed in line with the grant requirements and to manage the projects, which includes addressing data gaps, monitoring networks, amending the GSP over the next couple of years to address the corrective actions that were outlined in the notification letter that we got from DWR that did approve the plan, but identified some areas that need to be addressed before the 5-year kind of evaluation of the GSP, which is in 2027. So all this work will take place over the next couple of years. So that's what the subrecipient agreement is about. In the future, one of the projects you may recall is a Thermalito Water and Sewer District funding for their wastewater treatment plant expansion. And so in the near future, we're kind of trying to get all our ducks in a row. We will work up a subrecipient agreement for that project as well, and that will come to you for that project to be able to basically pass through that grant funding through the GSA to Thermalito Water and Sewer District. So that'll be in the future. The other one that we have today is a consultant contract with Larry Walker Associates. So we did trying to kind of keep these things working in parallel and be able to hit the ground running as soon as this grant was in place. We ran a competitive bid process, a request for proposals at the end of last year, had I think 3 proposals submitted. We had a committee evaluate those, did interviews, and selected Larry Walker Associates to do the work of component 2, which is what I mentioned, the GSP amendments and data gap work and some outreach work. And then component 4, which is regional conjunctive use project, which is looking at opportunities to use surface water in the subbasin more when that's possible, primarily for irrigation. So those 2 projects are in that contract, the Larry Walker Associates contract. So we expect project kickoffs in this next month if these contracts are approved by your board today. So that's the potential action, is to approve and authorize this chair to sign the subrecipient agreement, which is for just over $1 million, and then the contract with Larry Walker Associates for about $1.5 million. And this is all grant funded.
Any questions or comments?
Don't forget your mic.
Thanks, sorry. So if approving this contract, is that then, I mean, will we still be discussing this proposed budget? Because these contracts is probably, I'm guessing, the difference that's in our budget that we'll be discussing later. Okay, so if we approve it, but we still have questions about that, is it too late to work through that?
No, it won't be too late. So, and just to clarify quickly, and then I'll go into, when we cover the budget, you can ask the questions then, but the budget is just reflecting, the budget adjustment is just reflecting what we anticipate spending this fiscal year, and each year subsequent to this will have the amounts that we anticipate spending for the next fiscal year, and it should all add up to that amount, the overall amount in the contracts, if that makes sense.
It
Okay.
does. I just, if we're agreeing to this contract, then essentially it's gonna be changed in this one way or our budget one way or the other, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Do you
What are you
Sounds
saying?
like you're saying that the cart is before the horse, and you would much rather review the other
Does
prior
that-
to.
Am I the only one that is wanting to ask a
I'm
few
glad you
questions?
asked that question.
Okay.
I think it's valid.
All right, we can do this. We're just gonna skip over this. Well, now, let me take public comment on it first. Any public comment on this item? Which is approve and authorize the chair to sign agreement with Butte County and authorize chair contract with Larry Walker and Associates. And we'll just, you want to feel more comfortable voting on it afterwards?
I guess I guess I would. I don't know if I have anything major. I just had some questions, but if we approve it before we have those discussions, is the cart before the horse a little bit?
All right,
or
let's-
am I-
let's-
Is
okay,
it
if you-
complicating it too much?
This isn't the end of the world. We're just going to go,
Okay.
I'm going to
Right.
close public comment matter. Any more board discussion on that?
Sorry.
We'll just leave it for a vote later. We'll go to 5. This is legal. We'll go to 5, and Cammie, you're up.
So I did not have any slides made, but if you see in your packet, towards the end, there is the transmittal and the budget. So if you wanted to be
Yeah,
able
this
to
is
refer
quite a
to that.
packet. You know, maybe out of consideration, we could put page numbers on the items.
Sure,
That's what I was looking
So,
for.
because I'm trying to follow along here.
yeah.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
So in your packet, if you flip to the end, you'll see the
Mm-hmm.
recharge action plan, and the two budget and fee items are right before the recharge action plan in your packet.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it a
Yes,
little bit?
yes, so I'll just go through the transmittal, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. So on July 27th last year, the board approved the fiscal year budget for 23-24 through the resolution that was part of the fee adoption, if you recall, and identified revenue and expenses of $246,188. And the budget was adopted under the assumption that the grant program would cover the costs for the identified groundwater sustainability plan implementation and some of the Sigma compliance projects and management actions. An award notification letter from the California Department of Water Resources was received on October 23rd, informing us that we received that the grant was awarded to the GSA and was recommended that they would be recommending the full funding package of the $5.5 million, conditioned upon the execution of the grant agreement between Wyandotte GSA. On February 27th, DWR provided guidance to the GSA assuring that the grant agreement is being finalized and recommended that the GSA initiate work. Just as a side note, so we haven't gotten the final agreement. It's in their process, and we just wanted to keep things moving along, such as these agreements, and they have assured us that, yes, move forward. They're just in the process of giving all of these grants numbers. So we are just moving forward as if they are signed. And so, like I said, we've been working to finalize the consultant contracts, which includes all of the work plans, their budgets, and the schedules for the grant projects. If you recall, we have to expend these funds by June of 2026. So time is ticking. So what I've put in this budget is an overall increase to be added to of $573,000 to be added to the adopted operating budget. So for an overall, and hopefully those numbers are right. Yes, okay, good. I was like, wait, it's not adding up. $819,230 for this fiscal year. And the identified changes would be the anticipated revenue from the grant program, any associated expenditures for implementation of those projects, and a rollover reserve of $94,080. And what that rollover is the revenue that would be generated from the fees, because we're not going to be spending that money, we'll be spending the grant money. So hopefully that's clear in the budget there. And then in June, when you go to approve next year's fiscal year budget, and also identify the fees that you want to charge for next year, we can take that amount and figure it into the overall budget for next year. You can choose to roll it over as kind of a prudent reserve, or you can say, no, we want to apply it to the full budget and make sure that we charge the lowest fees possible. So that is the proposed budget. So we would be adding 819, or the total budget would be $819,230. The expenditures are anticipated to be $725,150 for the remainder of this year. Our consultants have a lot of work to do in the next few months. And then we would have that rollover reserve to take into consideration for next year's fiscal year budget of $94,080.
Thank you.
Does that hopefully answer some of your question?
Yeah, the rollover reserve part especially, that was one of my questions. And then I was just wondering about, because but the extra 517, that's being paid out of the grant funding? But, I'm sorry, 573?
Yes.
How will we reconcile that later on down the road? Is that money supposed to be allotted for the other projects?
So that portion, that budget amount is just for the Wyandotte Creek projects that you're approving today of what they think that they'll expend this year. And then the remaining budget amount for those projects, the total cost is, I'm not sure on those budgets, $1 million something. And so that will all be deducted from that. So ultimately, what you will see is how those funds are being expended.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm not making much sense here. I'm just trying to understand. So it looks like when we passed the budget, we had 30,000 for the annual reporting, 43,000. But
Yes.
the amended part is we need an additional 47.5 on, and so is that because it's going to cost more than we projected?
No, I think I understand. So those amounts in the adopted budget for things like annual reporting, that will all come out of the GSA Sigma grant fees and not the fees for the GSA. So it's all those numbers in that column are, for most of them, anything that shows up in the middle column are what is being paid for through the Sigma grant, as well as the same things that are applicable to those studies that are grant funded. Does that make sense? So that's why we have a surplus, is because originally that 30,000 was going to come out of the fees, but it's not. The 30,000 is now going to come out of the grant, and so 77,500 will be grant funded money.
And
Great, okay.
just to add to that, so we're actually going to get reimbursed for the last 2 years of annual reports, so that's why it's 77. That's 2 annual reports.
I see, okay. And so I was just seeing if we needed that, it was in addition to what we had already budgeted, but it's essentially, it's being paid for out of the grants.
Yes.
I understand that, but I didn't know if this was just because we had, we didn't have it projected correctly when we passed the
Right.
budget. And so I was making sure that, were we gonna be short 573,000 down the line that we're taking out of the 5.5 million that we were awarded? I don't know if that made any sense, but I think we're
Yeah,
okay.
not exactly, because there's some things that, like the fee study was $100,000. The grant is paying that back also.
Okay.
So there's some things here, it's a little funky because we're loading it, and it's basically gonna come, the GSA is gonna pay Butte County through the subrecipient agreement.
Yep.
And then the GSA is going to get paid by DWR to backfill. So it's just like grant funding flow
Great,
for those
okay,
projects.
so we won't have a shortfall
No.
later on down the line
No.
because we need this additional 573 right now?
The 573 is from the grant. So,
Right.
yeah.
I
Okay.
understand that part. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if we were awarded a specific amount and now we're taking more out of it, will we have a shortfall later on is all I was.
No.
Okay,
Because all of that grant money will go to the GSA, kind of into your bank account to pay
okay.
all of the consultants and to back pay some of the things that were already expended, such as the fee study, also Thermalito water and sewer projects. So some of it'll just will quickly get passed through the GSA.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that makes sense.
So you won't, just have one more thought, you won't have a shortfall, but that annual report, as an example, is an ongoing cost, right? So once the grant money is not available to pay for that cost, that's where the fees will have to come back into play to pay future years.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I might have been reading it, I was just looking at like, it looks like we projected it to cost 43,000 for the 5-year GSP evaluation, but it's actually gonna cost us 213, is the way I was reading it.
That's a
so.
great, I think, that's a great point. So if you recall in the fee study, we did those 5-year projections, and each year had $43,750. So over the 5-year period, it would cost whatever 43 times 5 is. And so that's what we anticipated for the cost of, let's say, the 5-year GSP evaluation. So the grant will cover that. I'll get close to that year.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add that 213, a lot of it is actually for monitoring well work. So it's in that category of GSP refinements, but it's not necessarily an ongoing cost. It's we got grant money and we can give kind of our monitoring network a push of improvement with that grant funding, but it's not necessarily a new ongoing.
Okay.
I like this back and forth. So then I'm going to add, so in your packet there with all of the projects and the components, I lumped some of the things that were identified as components or projects into some of these categories as they generally applied, so that I wouldn't be adding new categories, and then you would be looking at like, why do we have all these new things that we didn't identify? So things that were GSP related, monitoring related, or modeling related were kind of thrown into that category.
Okay.
And so in future budget, the adoption of the next budget, we can be much more detailed as to exactly what is going where, but to just kind of keep with this format that you had, I just wanted to make it simple.
Okay. Thank you.
Simpler.
Quick question. I just have a quick question. It's in regards to the legal defense reserve. I was just wondering with the surplus, why we have we have $0 in the reserve moving forward in the event.
In the event that the GSA is sued, yeah, we didn't identify an amount for that. That was, I think, what you, as the board, had chosen when we were doing the
So that was
fee.
initially.
I can't recall if we probably initially had some amount for legal defense. We do have the legal services line item so far. We haven't had the need for legal defense in this GSA, knock on wood. So, but.
I don't go through
Yeah,
life
but-
knocking on wood.
Yeah, so you could, when you do the budget for next year, we could talk about adding an amount there.
So
that you-
until then, we just knock on wood.
Yeah, I think you're safe because you do have this rollover amount, which could essentially
Right.
serve
that
as
we can always,
contingency in the meantime.
revisit that if need be. All right, I was just
Okay,
curious.
no,
Thank you.
that's, yeah, Vina GSA had $100,000 in that line item, but they're being sued, so.
I just hope that everybody tries to make the 94,000 grow, so next year we can lower the fees a little bit. I mean, looking out for the public, that we just impose these fees, and I know you're gonna get to that later, but that would be my hope, that just because we have a budget, let's try to be a little bit frugal and maybe have a larger carryover, so we can be nice to the public. That's my input. You guys got anything? Any public comment on this?
Well, I do have, kind of sounding again about the legal services. I really have a concern about the fact that we don't have somebody in place or some kind of agreement with somebody as far as legal defense.
You mean a
Because if it
retainer?
pops, huh?
You mean like a retainer?
Well, a retainer, or have we reached out to our legal services group and said, will you represent us if we get sued?
I think we do, Bruce, don't we have
You
a,
know, I mean,
county.
yeah, even if we did a small retainer with somebody that said, we'll step in and help you out, but in this day and age, to be a group like we are and a little bit contentious and then not have somebody to step in and protect us, I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
Well, we have the county behind us to at least console with, and then if we had to hire somebody,
Okay.
and we,
Well, just as a reminder, we do have legal services, BKS, and actually they're even online. Andrew Ramos has been our legal counsel. So in the
Okay.
event that if we were litigated or a complaint was filed, they would serve as legal counsel if they needed to bring on somebody else in
Okay.
addition to the services they provide. But I think part of the reason why we did choose them is their ability to pretty much be able to defend the GSA, at least with regard to water-related and business-related
All right.
items. So
Okay, so you're comfortable with where we stand right now? And then look at it again coming next year or something? Yeah.
the amount that you might want to put there.
Right.
So we have, for now, and they haven't ever used the budget amount of 10,000 a year for just legal services. And
Right.
and what we did with the Vina GSA was we kept legal services separate from litigation. We wanted to be able to track that for the board and the public of what was being spent on actual litigation versus what was being spent on the everyday legal services, contract review of things like the fee study or documents, or be able to provide input and guidance about GSP periodic evaluations or other resolutions that this board might want
Right,
to
okay,
approve.
all right.
all right, we
Are you
comfortable?
looking for a motion?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do a budget adjustment. I need a motion, no public comment, right? Right, come on up.
Oh,
Yeah. Wow, I thought
oh,
it'd be late.
gee. All right.
This is exciting.
Perfect. I was just wondering if a copy of what you guys are seeing is on the website, or if you have some here? Just, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Anything we're talking about is public record.
But yeah,
You can
I
get a
just wonder if you
copy
have
of it.
copies
Yes.
here, or can I just have to see it on the website?
I could give you
Just to
my
follow along.
copies. Yes, and yes, typically on the website. And I think too, if Dylan didn't, she traditionally would send copies to the WAC, so we'll make sure that you're receiving that as well.
Sir, could you identify yourself?
I'm sorry. Joe Gleason,
There you go.
WAC
And-
member.
Now you're on the record.
I'm so sorry, sir. If I could also just let you know, I am the Oroville City Clerk, and all of these videos are on our Oroville City YouTube page as well, so you can
Great.
go view them there.
Thank you.
Great question, though. Thank you.
So
All right, so
ready for a motion?
I'll entertain a motion on
I
that.
move that we,
I had a comment in regards to the legal.
Oh, come on up.
So,
Please
and
give us your,
I'm learning.
if you would, give us your name, please.
Colleen Duncan, and I'm learning about this particular organization, but doesn't this particular organization have some type of professional liability in regards to legal claims? And then the only part that you would need to actually show in your budget as a contingency is your deductible, correct? Am I right on that? I'm just trying to understand.
So we do have liability insurance, and I believe it should say on there, insurance, and that's what we
Yeah,
pay for,
there is.
for liability insurance on that line
Right.
item.
So the only part you'd need in your budget is whatever the deductible is if someone were to go forth and sue. That was my comment that I thought. And then the other part was in regards to the bond and the spending on the bond, not bond,
Grant?
grant. I'm sure that you have to show that you've spent 100% of it on whatever, and then whatever is left over is those fees, hopefully. Right, so you can't put any of the grant aside. You can only put that 94,000 in the fees aside,
Right,
correct?
yes.
Okay, I just wanted
Yes,
to
no,
be
good
sure I
clarification.
understood. Thank you.
Good question. Any other public comment? We'll close public comment. Wishes of the board.
I move that we accept the budget adjustments as stated.
We have no electronic anything to worry about, right? I don't have to, all right, good.
None received.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. So let's back up. We're gonna go back to item 4, which we've already discussed. Your questions answered good enough?
Yeah, I'm great.
Well, why don't you make a motion?
Move we pass the contracts,
Both of them?
both of them.
Okay. I need a second.
And I'll second, and that would be this Larry Walker Associates contract, because you never know, somebody will say something. And the sub-recipient agreement with Butte County. So
Yeah.
that's what we're agreeing on. I second that.
Any further discussion? Any public comment? Not,
One question.
no, we don't do it.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You trying to slow down my meetings? What are you trying to do here, Betty?
We're good.
Left the car running.
The electronic, if you got electronic call-in, you have to roll call. But it's kind of in the air.
Okay.
I mean, it's legal to do the way we do it. Management and committee update, summary of fee discrepancy report. Oh, Cammie, you get to explain all this one.
I
Looks
know,
like this.
hopefully in the future it'll be Dylan. And then I can sit back and relax. So in the back, towards the end of your report is also a transmittal with a table in it, and I'll share mine with you, Joe, when I'm done. So just as a reminder, upon issuance of the 2023 tax bill that included the Wyandotte Creek GSA fee, it was reported that there were incorrect charges on some tax bills. The GSA investigated and found that there were fee discrepancies caused by the fee consultant's reliance on GIS parcel data instead of the assessor's acreage. Further inquiry determined that most of these fees were not affected by this GIS parcel data, and the fees that were charged were correct. At your last meeting on January 25th, the board asked for staff to provide a summary of the number of parcels that were either over or undercharged, and in response, staff collaborated with the project consultant to categorize these discrepancies as detailed in the table below. Thank you for bringing that up. Of the 11,058 parcels that were within the subbasin that were charged, about 1,939 were undercharged, and of these, about 1,500 were undercharged between 4 cents and 99 cents. And then, based on the analysis, 2,835 parcels were overcharged, and of those, between 2,835 were overcharged between 4 cents and 99 cents. And only 4 parcels were overcharged by $50, and only 1 parcel was overcharged over $100. And I think that was your main point of concern, was how many were overcharged by $100 or more. And just as a reminder, the adjustments for both either overcharges or undercharges, including any refunds, would be reflected in the next year's tax bill. So they'll just take, if they overcharge, they'll receive not a refund, but it'll be subtracted from the tax bill. And if they were undercharged, we will actually be able to collect the difference. Just so you know, the difference in the amounts, overcharged and undercharged, is kind of a wash. So, in meaning that those that paid, maybe it all just kind of came out to almost break even, maybe about $200 off. So we didn't really have, we didn't lose a significant amount of fee revenue from.
It costs
from
more
that.
in postage and
Yeah.
time than it would to go through it all, so.
Yeah, and what we found in the Vina GSA, they did decide to issue new tax bills for those that were overcharged $5 or more. And I think the county auditor's office got a lot of calls because people didn't really, it doesn't say when they get their new tax bill, it doesn't say, you're receiving this new tax bill because the Vina GSA had a fee discrepancy and we are, refunding you money. They just got a new tax bill. And so they got a lot of calls saying, why am I getting this new tax bill? Which one is what right? And so we thought that instead of sending out a bunch of revised tax bills for Wyandotte Creek, because it wasn't a significant amount of difference, that we would just put it on next year's tax bill. And that's the preference of the auditor as well. I'm sorry, Kyle.
And then going forward, it
Yeah, and
should be
then,
much more streamlined
Yes.
next year, hopefully.
yeah,
Okay.
it'll be fixed and then we'll just be moving forward. And plus, we'll be able to capture some of the people that did do, or will be applying for the multi-user classification as well. So I think we're getting it dialed in, and hopefully we will not have this problem again in the future.
Questions or comments by board members?
Thank you for that
Sounds really good. Any
summary.
public comment on that? All right, we'll close this item and we'll move on to the next item. That's an update regarding State Water Efficiency Enhancement Program, SWEEP
Yeah, so
grants in Butte County. Christina, I read that without my glasses. I'm pretty proud of myself.
nice. It's a mouthful, too. Yeah, we just wanted to provide a brief update on what's happening in the county by others, because this is identified as one of the projects in the groundwater sustainability plan. So just an opportunity to report out. The Butte County Farm Bureau and Agricultural Groundwater Users of Butte County, nonprofit organization, submitted and received a $5 million grant through SWEEP, which is the State Water Efficiency and Enhancement Program. And so they will be distributing roughly $4 million in grants to agricultural operations in Butte County to reduce water use, so increased irrigation efficiency, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so type projects. So they plan to do this through 2 rounds of funding. They had their first round that were due, applications were due in February, and they've been reviewing those applications to award funding. They actually received 51 applications for nearly $7.3 million in funding. So there's demand and interest in this type of work. They'll be selecting projects for this first round of funding based on a criteria, kind of a rubric scoring criteria, and then they'll have round 2 next year. So
So hold on.
Yeah.
When will you find out who was awarded for the first?
yeah, good question. I believe, let me see if that's in here. I know they are working through a selection process right now, so I'm not sure when they're making decisions, but I would guess in the next couple of months.
All right.
Are
Thank
these,
you.
the Farm Bureau is working through it? I'm a little bit.
Yeah, Farm Bureau.
What if you're a farmer and not a Farm Bureau member? Can you apply?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
They're just running the program. Yep. So that's what we have.
Side note, they also have
Question.
a set aside for small farmers,
yeah.
disadvantaged and smaller farmers as well. So they have kind of an amount that they're targeting to be able to do that.
So
Any
that's the
questions or
update.
comments by board members? Would the public like to speak? We'll go on to the next item then. This is an update of Butte County Board of Supervisors adopted recharge action plan. Christina.
Yeah, so just wanted to highlight this as well, and this is in your packet, but the Butte County first kind of committee, an ad hoc committee of the Technical Advisory Committee and the Water Commission worked with staff to really identify, what are the opportunities and next steps for advancing recharge more in the county. This was spurred on really by last year's very wet year, especially in other parts of the state that received a lot of runoff and rainfall, but it got things moving here too in conversation. And so the Recharge Action Plan went through the Water Commission and then was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in February. And it's consistent with projects that are outlined in both Wyandotte Creek and Vina groundwater sustainability plans, and happily, the grant funding also has money behind some of these actions and implementation steps that are identified in this plan. So it really is just kind of a collection and organization of our thinking around what should we be doing next and what are the opportunities in this county and in these subbasins for recharge. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Well, I was reading about in the San Joaquin Valley where a farmer took it upon himself to somewhat terrace these land or make retention ditches, long ponds really, and then when the water ran off in the rain, he captured it and it was working dramatically. So I'm thinking if we could do retention along Wyman's Ravine where we have flooding problems, we could kill two birds with one stone. There's several problems in Palermo too that maybe we could have projects to recharge and stop flooding, localized flooding.
Yeah, great.
I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's just another update. So we do have a Palermo master drainage study that has been initiated for the Palermo area. The county has Cal OES money funding for that, and so we finally have a consultant under a contract, and they've initiated that project. Actually, I think one of their West Yost is the consultant company running that project, and they've been out in the field meeting with Public Works field crews and looking at different areas within the Palermo community and just adjacent to it to evaluate some of the flood issues within the community when there is a lot of precipitation. They are also, as part of that, master plan study will be to look at opportunities that we could do for passive recharge with Wyman's Ravine and anywhere else.
And I did read in here, this report, I was very pleased to read that passive recharge water belongs to everyone. Nobody gets to say, I own it. Where you have direct recharge and laws changed where if you directly recharge, you own the water. So I was pleased to read that. That's clarified. Thank you. Any questions or comments by the board? Any public comment on this matter? Okay, we're going to move on. Update on the state SGM annual report. Sigma? Yeah?
Yep.
You're up again?
Yep, last one.
They
Yeah,
made
so
it.
the Sustainable
Bless it.
Groundwater Management Act requires annual reports for each subbase. And so Kelly Peterson in our office, water resource scientist, has been the lead on this with the consultant team that is helping to put together these annual reports for each of the subbasins. So that work is complete, and the Wyandotte Creek Subbasin Annual Report has been posted to the state's portal where the GSP lives, and now each annual report. We will bring a full report to you at your next board meeting as to kind of the state of the subbasin as of last water year, which is what that report summarizes.
Questions or comments by the board? Is there public comment? Seeing none. Okay, we're going to adjourn this meeting
I
and we'll
just
meet
have-
May 28th.
I just have one.
Okay.
I know your vehicle's running. Just kidding.
Now my
So-
dog's locked in the office. Go ahead.
Real quick, and Bill, you're the one that had mentioned this, but in the future, when we have extensive packets like this, could you just number them and just makes it user-friendly for all of us? Thank you.
And if you put the numbers up here on the heading, it'll even make it easier for us. It's very interesting. And I'll give you, sir, I'll give you my packet. A complete packet? Okay. Do you want, anybody else want, you can have my packet.
Yeah.
I didn't even
wrote
write
that
on
down.
it. I mean, it's,
We
okay,
don't
so
usually
we're
have
dismissed. Oh, we'll